shit works. Oh, it said recording is on.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. She said it right in my ear.
That was fancy, huh?
She whispered it.
Wow. So we're recording for the first time on jitsi.org, and I hope this actually works. I think it will. I think it will.
And why are we recording on Jitsi, you said?
So Jitsi is a more secure video conferencing platform. And why do we want to use a more secure conferencing platform? It's not because we're criminals. It's not because we're bad guys. It's not because we're child molesters. It's because the only way that you can ensure you have 100% privacy and security online for your bank accounts, your family photos, your family videos, anything that anyone can take, you want to use the most secure platforms you can from a security perspective. And jitsi.org is one of the leading open source encrypted video conferencing platforms out there. And we're not sponsors, but we're trying to use them for the first time right now because Skype's okay, but the video recorder that we're using or we have used, it adds an extra step into editing. So if we can record through this and kind of get a good secure file out of it, I think that's a win-win.
I like it. Yeah, it's good that, well, you know, practicing a encrypted type of security measures here, because actually cybercrime has gone up. So I think everyone should be aware of that.
I'm also enjoying a nice oatmeal stout that Mike got me.
Is it thick?
Thank you again, Mike. It is, but it's not too thick though. Okay. It's got a great. It's really delicious. I taste that that like oak barrel that it had sit on it. I have the box here actually. Yeah, bourbon barrel aged oatmeal stout. So, cheers, Mike. Thank you for that.
Enjoy, brother.
So we should cheers. I mean, the stock market's doing pretty well, right? We've seen bankrupt companies making hundreds of percents and totally baffling the executives of that company because it's going to go bankrupt whether or not people buy it or not. But let's give an update on that. Where are we in the markets?
So right now we see Hertz instead of their share price going down has gone up. And what analysts have said is because a lot of users on Robinhood have actually seen it as an opportunity and started to buy, right, based off of Barstool, correct? And so everyone now has these stimulus checks and unemployment checks, and everyone has this cash just laying around. Even if you don't have any of those checks and you're still employed, you might not be spending as much as you were before. So if you follow mainstream media, you look up CNBC, Wall Street Journal, anything like that, all they're saying is, wow, the markets are doing great. You know, it's at 25,000 points and Trump's, oh, we're back. Everyone's in this like euphoria and you're seeing it in the market. So everyone wants to get in on it. But, you know, if you are very educated about investing in, you know, in Wall Street, you know, there's a term called dumb money, right? So we have smart money, which is, you know, hedge funds, you know, Goldman Sachs, big money institutions, right? And then you have dumb money, which is everyone else, like, you know, you and I and folks, Main Street. So smart money has pulled out, which is why we had a huge dip aside from COVID. And, you know, after the stimulus and everything set into play, a lot of dumb money started to really, you know, move around the markets. So that has propped up Wall Street. And what we're seeing right now is we're seeing the markets that do not correlate with the economy. And there's a lot of questions as to why. And if you could, you know, if you do understand that the markets is actually, you have free money in there. So the Fed continues to print on the back end, you know, even with repos, they are, you know, continually putting money in there, and then everyone else with these stimulus and everything else, they're buying and they're just buying, and everyone's playing around, and it's not real. So Joe, what do you think? What do you think about this?
So this is coming. I'll read you I gotta see if we can. I'm testing out the Jitsi here because I think I can do a screen share too. So we're gonna see if this will work. I hope it works so we can show you all of the sources that we're referring to all the time. But this is coming, live from the company right now. So this was reported today. The Hertz AK, describing its stock offering, uses the word worthless 5 times. So here we have Hertz, who is a company that went bankrupt, and now, after it's had so much interest in its own stock and share price from Main Street, because Mike, like you were talking about, we know that Robinhood has had the highest amount of transaction volume on that stock in the world. It's coming from Robinhood, and the only people that are using Robinhood are mainstream investors, like dumb money, like you're saying, like you and I. So these are individuals that don't typically speculate in the economy there, and we can tell from user growth of Robinhood. These are millennials, probably mostly, that have joined the app over the last couple months and have started trading. And a lot of it is because of what you mentioned about the Barstool Sports president, Doug. There, he has his own section, and he's been just doing day trades because there's nothing to do during COVID. So everyone's sitting inside, they're day trading, and they're recording funny videos. And all of Main Street is watching this, and they think it's great and hilarious. And he's literally moving stock prices. It's absurd. It's absurd. And I think that we also historically saw something similar to this as a response from what was the initial V-shaped recovery from the 1929 crash, but what ended up being an actual bear trap, and then it proceeded to have downward price movements. It hadn't hit the bottom yet in the first leg down. So unfortunately, I think it's people that just don't have awareness on this, or they speculate because they're just making money. Millennials are, maybe you're making money on the trade. That's good. But I don't think it's going to end well for these people, because the company is bankrupt, and the company will be liquidated, and the company will be sold, and shareholders typically don't get any equity in that. So, and that's why Hertz has even said, we're going to issue $500 million worth more of shares, but they're worthless, and they don't even know why they're issuing them. So,
it just shows though, that right there is a perfect example. If everyone really is paying attention and they can understand this, it's a perfect example of how the stock market actually works. It's highly manipulated. There's a lot of fakeness going around. Right now, what we're seeing is actually just people like you and I doing this and manipulating it. What we're seeing is a micro version of what actually happens in real life. Right now, we have people just playing around and inflating it, buying, selling, just playing around like it's a game, right? They're playing around with it. So you have these influxes and all this manipulation. This is exactly what the big banks do. This is exactly what the big corporations do. They do that. And right now you see Hertz, they're trying to issue more shares. They're doing it because of that, right? But if we weren't seeing that, and we go back to the time that smart money is playing around, they do this, but on a larger scale. But we don't see it because they are not transparent. Right now, it's pretty transparent because you're actually seeing regular folks on Main Street and doing all of this, plus the reaction on the market because of this all. So the big banks and the big corporations are pointing fingers at at us, but it's pretty much what happens all the time. So this is just how easy it is to manipulate. If you have droves of people making shifts, not on intelligence, like actually going on balance sheets and seeing if a company is actually worth something and investing for the long term. If that's what you're doing, then that's what we all think is the most responsible way. And if we were all doing that, the markets would actually be a lot safer. And yeah, there will be less profit to be made because there's less risk, but then we have less issues than what we're having right now. But now you're seeing what's going on. That's exactly the same thing. It's
Mhm.
exactly the same thing. But right now it's going to be worse because we are more reactionary. So when push comes to shove and people start seeing, let's say if there is a crash and, you know, dumb money starts to freak out, they're going to all pull out. And then the crash is going to go even faster because people like you and I are more risk averse.
Mhm.
So this is
Yeah,
what we get.
I think it's also an element of smart money, like you're saying, liquidating the rest of the market on the way down. You know, the vampires sucking the blood out of what's left of the economy on the way down, and the wealth gap is only widening. The wealth gap's been, wide. Elon Musk is out here saying he's selling everything, because he said he's a target, and what he really means by that is that, like, it's the 1920s again, where the really rich people actually are more of the target by society.
We've
And
seen that with the riots, right?
yeah, and we see it also. The last article I want to bring up for headline, Mike, to prove kind of your point about what you're saying about smart money knowing. Smart money absolutely knows. So Zero Hedge, this came from Zero Hedge today, and it says this is how a few thousand retail day traders on Robinhood move the market. RH sells their order flow to HFT algos who front run the trades and massively accentuate the movement. So, what he's essentially saying is that Citadel, who's a hedge fund, um, and this is coming from Citadel as well. Yeah, so this Citadel Securities. So Citadel is a hedge fund, and a part of, like what you're saying, Mike, that the way the stock market actually functions nowadays, outside of Robinhood app, is high frequency trading. Right, hedge funds are creating algorithms and programs that trade stock prices based on inputs, and it's all on the computer. It's high frequency trading. They even have algorithms and bots that are made to scan news articles that are posted online, blog posts where they do word searches and stuff, and they try to determine from when a news article is posted, what does that mean for the market and what should I trade on? Because they're not supposed to have insider information, even though sometimes that, or most of the time, that actually does happen. It doesn't, but anyways, but they're saying that is Robinhood actually sells off some of this data, right? Their trading data, and these high frequency trading algorithms know that there's volume in that stock, and they know there's interest there, and it's because they have the data, right?
Yeah,
And
they're purchasing the data. It's
exactly.
like that's insider trading.
So
Come on, man.
as the volume's coming into that stock, like if you have a computer program, and you know that like people are going to have a lot of interest in that stock, you can turn the bot on for that stock to trade, and it'll run up the price even more along with these people, and they're in tandem moving the market up. Mainstream investors think that it's organic growth and they're doing the right thing because they're making returns. Smart money knows that mainstream investors are going to be caught up in the euphoria, right? And then what mainstream investors don't know is that smart money is aware in doing this, and at the switch of a dime can liquidate the shares, like you're saying. And why not? Because the company is going bankrupt anyways. They're going bankrupt anyways. There will be no money left at the end of this. So
There
this
will be paychecks though, and bonuses and all of that,
there
right?
will be, yeah.
And that's the thing with these corporations like Hertz. People will still get paid. You have a job, you have a pay schedule, you get bonuses. So if you are in the finance department of Hertz, you're gonna get a bonus for doing this type of work, for doing things right, and maybe allowing the banks to get a little bit more, right? You're gonna get a nice check. These are people that are working for these corporations. It's not like it's completely faceless. So it goes down to like what's behind the scenes, and behind the scenes we got that going on. So we have to really pay attention. We have to pay attention, and really look into what's going on. You have Hertz going out of business. You have Chesapeake, right? We talk about the oil markets is another big issue. People thought that the oil markets were saved. No, they were not saved. They're going they're going down even worse now. They're, right now BP is laying off 10,000 people. Chesapeake is going bankrupt. It's two, three other U.S. based frackers are also falling. And not only that, 20% is what Goldman Sachs is saying right now is going to crash. 20%, and that's on top of what we already lost. What the hell does that even mean?
Sometimes I try to because we try to look at these situations from both sides. And we've been saying this whole time that, the markets they are collapsing, right? Nothing is logical. Nothing makes sense anymore. And we look at the current market, right? And we're seeing rebounds in the stock market, but 40 million Americans, 50 million Americans are still unemployed. That's not very rational. But I'm trying to counter argue like a collapse. And I say that maybe this time the difference is that people are everyone's getting bailed out this time. So maybe there's a little bit of more capital right now, a little bit of money floating around Main Street right now. But at the same time, that cannot last, and we do look like we're at about the end of the dollar here. I mean, that's without a doubt now, because the Fed's been talking about a digital dollar publicly. So, I don't know, Mike, but what I do think is that these people that are making the money right now in the market need to understand that it could not last forever, right? It doesn't look like things are going too well right now. So the recommendation, and this isn't financial advice, but what they would probably do better is if they took the returns they're making right now on freaking Hertz and they took it and put it into some Monero or into some Bitcoin, because this fiat-based system is structurally fucked, right? Like, we are at the point with the national debt right now where even the interest alone, the serviceable, the amount of interest on top of it, you're getting to these figures right now where it becomes this like compounding bottomless pit where I owe more the next year than I make in general, and I'm always going to owe that. And I think we are seeing the buckling and the crack up that we see in great societies before this happens. And I think that this is just the start with what we're seeing with the protests.
That happened in Italy. This is how Mussolini got power.
This
is exactly what happened in Italy. It's exactly the same situation. And at the end of the day, the Italian government, which was, Mussolini, he had to bail out almost, you could say, the corporate side of business in Italy, and it was nationalized in a way. It's pretty much what's going on now. Right now, the Federal Reserve just said that they're going to start purchasing individual bonds. They just said this. It's like, that's another way of nationalizing, if you really think about it. You're buying up debt. So the federal government's going to own everyone's debt, the corporation's debt. If you're going to buy up debt and you're going to start buying up, that's nationalization, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't understand how, all of this works, but I think that's what that means.
It's absolutely what it means. BlackRock, we know BlackRock and private equity own almost all of the real estate market in the U.S. right now, at least from a rental perspective, commercial properties. I had even seen, I think it was BlackRock or one of the PE firms last year, 2 years ago, bought all of the remaining .org domains and scooped all those up. So they sucked the blood out of that. And I think that this is just the last attempt to suck what's left out of the dollar before they collapse the system. And before some people are beneficial enough to have the ability to transition to the next system before others and kind of prosper through that. But for others, just as there has been times in history, there will be a transitionary period, and some will struggle others more than others. But I think this is what we're all seeing right now unfold in front of us. 40 million, 50 million people are still employed. Until those unemployment numbers come up and you're not relying on UBI or unemployment, I don't want to talk to anyone about any like recoveries. It's just it's absolutely absurd.
No recovery. Yeah, we haven't even hit rock bottom yet. We haven't even hit. So if we have that amount of people unemployed and we haven't even seen all the bankruptcies yet, every day we're seeing new bankruptcies. Right now, Planet, what is it, 24-hour Planet? Is it
24-hour fitness. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going bankrupt. They just announced it. Children's Place just announced. So that's every day. You got more and more companies. So as more and more announce, more and more unemployments are pending. And we haven't even had the bottoming out of the market. And when that happens, that's when, things will intensify. And, not only that, we also have the whole situation of COVID. I just read that Houston has a huge increase and they're already talking about doing a shutdown again. Houston's, I think, is the fourth largest city in America, if not, I'm not mistaken. So that's it's pretty big in my opinion. And they're an oil city as well. That's where all the oil companies are headquartered out of here in America.
Yeah.
So mix that in there, and yeah, it's a mess.
And I think there's no argument that we're transitioning kind of next, right? The markets aren't doing any better.
No wonder why they were talking about UBI. Somebody saw this. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's what pushed us. It is what ultimately is going to push us into the digital economy, because the fact is like, what stores have been allowed to stay open this whole time, and what haven't? Which ones haven't? Amazon, right? Yeah. Versus the mom and pops that are just now. This is kind of this was the last nail in the coffin for them.
Mom and pop got destroyed, man. And you know what? The majority of the employees that were already struggling, done. Jobs are done. If you were a cook or a waitress, anything like that, working at a store as a retailer, you lost your job, it's going to be tremendously hard to find something, because a lot of those jobs are not going to, they're not coming back. And not only they're not coming back, we're going to have a gig economy now. So you're going to have to start learning how to, do business on your own. And, whatever it is you do, if you're a cook, you're going to have to sell your services out somehow through a platform, anything like that. Everything's going to be gig. I'm seeing more and more platforms actually coming up for the gig economy. And if you're, and it's in a way it's good, because people might have more flexibility in their schedules and they'll become their own boss. But being your own boss is not easy. It's a struggle. And if you've never learned to be just thrown into the wolves like that, I don't desire that feeling to anybody, especially, look at restaurants. Restaurants were already struggling. Restaurants is one of the hardest industries to get into. The majority of restaurants that open, the first year close. And if you could exist through 5 years of business and break even and all that, make a profit, usually you're good, but it's very hard to still, keep that going. Mm-hmm. Now with this, I heard on Joe Rogan podcast, there's Joe Rogan had these two restaurateurs on. I don't remember the name. I think it was like last week. And one of the ladies that was talking, she's highly invested in restaurants out in Toronto, like Yorkville. Yorkville's like the Beverly Hills of Toronto, and just around the country. And, she had millions invested. It's almost all gone. That's a big deal. And, Momofuku is one of these larger, newer chains. It's not. I don't like to call it a chain, because David Chang, started it. Pretty much like 10 years ago, was it? I remember when I went to his restaurant when he opened, and became popular because of a New York Times review. He actually almost went bankrupt. So this guy, David Chang, he's like super into ramen. He learned to do ramen in Japan. He's super foodie. So he opens this restaurant down in Manhattan, and he struggled, almost closed. And then one day, one of the big food writers from New York Times came in and had a bowl, and he loved it. He wrote a piece on his restaurant. Man, it became big. Now he's a celebrity chef. He has a show on Netflix, and this guy has opened, I think, more than 30 restaurants all around the world. Wow. The majority of them have to close. And his food is good, and that says a lot. And that's what we know of.
What's amazing is one of the other concepts that we've talked about is the fact that we have not really entered the digital economy yet. And with the digital economy comes the fourth industrial revolution or the digital revolution. Some argue that it started already, 10, 20 years ago. I'll argue that until like blockchain and crypto, until you have the ability to program an entity that exists online that isn't owned by anyone and it is able to just operate, function, and spend on its own, then we're really in it, right? And with this transition in as we go through the Industrial Revolution, these are when you have what's known as generational wealth transfers or wealth transfers, and they typically happen, or at least they have happened in the past through industrial revolutions, because really the only reason why an industrial revolution happens is because of a new innovation or technology that comes out, or a new resource that's discovered that allows the next 100, the next part of society to kind of function, right? Oil being one that drove us into the hardcore industrial revolution that we knew about with machinery and stuff, and I think that digital currencies are going to be the equivalent of the oil during the last industrial revolution.
Oh, definitely.
And I say that because if we're going to operate in this future world where it's all digital, it's all programmable, it's all money, we see digital currencies as they exist today, Bitcoin as it exists today, Monero as it exists today, in its very immature new form as money, or like maybe we could send digital collectibles that no one else can touch. But we have not even lived in a world yet of concepts of things like streaming money. A world where in order to drive down that highway or go into that hotel or do anything with that business, you need to transact in Bitcoin because it's built on top of Bitcoin's protocol, and Bitcoin is the settlement layer of that currency or something. This is a world that's futuristic. So I think the people that are hurting today, my long-winded point is that pay attention to when we talk about Bitcoin and Monero and these digital currencies, because as hard as it is right now that we're feeling the way we are, no matter who you are, we're still alive in an amazing time in history, because we are early on this transition that's going to happen, a new financial system, a new currency. And a lot of the tips that we're trying to teach people is an escape from the volatility that we're seeing right now from the markets, and you're really planning your future through that. So I think that's what the Robinhood investors again need to do, is you just take that money and put a little bit into crypto and stuff. And Monero, we were talking about Monero before this, Mike, and this is why we talk about it, is Monero really does have all the properties of money. It does. By definition, it's got all of the properties. Even more so than Bitcoin at this moment, because of fungibility. Fungibility is a huge issue in Bitcoin right now, is that your payments can be tracked and traced, and the government does have companies that are responsible for trying to identify accounts and trace them. So Monero, though, that's not possible. No one knows what you spend, who you send it to, who owns a wallet address, and it's done through back end-to-end encryption, and it's the only digital currency right now among a very small few others that are just popping up that are like that. So this is a very unique time right now, and
it's important in a time of turmoil. It's not only about security from hackers, but as time goes on, and not only in America but abroad, there's we have political turmoil. There's some dissidents going on in other nations. So, if like right now, example, right, we were talking about earlier in our own conversation about Hong Kong, right? If you're a Hong Kong national and you're worried about currency issues right now because of losing autonomy, right, and completely going back to China, you might worry about losing your finances, or maybe you want to move because you don't want that new reality, right? So, Monero would be probably the place you would want to store your money while you figure something out. There's a whole slew of issues here that Monero works to actually help. And I'm all about privacy, just because I don't trust my information with no one.
Mhm.
Even even yourself, right? It's hard sometimes to keep secrets, right? So if it's hard for you to keep a secret, don't trust anybody to keep for you, So
Yeah, one of my favorite things with Monero too is uh, there's a very unique feature that makes it even more special called a view key, where the owner of a wallet address has the option, but not it's not mandatory to reveal a view key to another individual where they could view what's in the wallet address, and they can do an audit if they want to. So Monero provides people the ability to keep their finances private and safe, because that's what you want. That's what we want right now with our banks. We're just trusting other people to do it for us. Um, but also the ability to conduct audits too. So, if you want people to see how much money in your bank account, go ahead and give them the key. But this becomes even more powerful for like nonprofits and businesses and government agencies and high net worth individuals. Because you're not going to want everything to be public. You're going to want everything to be private by default, but you want the ability to make it public if you need to, right? And for these reasons, Monero is absolutely, one of the, if no, it is the best in this category, and that's why we trust it, and that's why we talk about it so much. And we do think that privacy is very undervalued right now, especially in the digital currency space. And it's because institutional money, in my opinion, it's because we're still early. There's a lot of money in the markets, but there's not enough money yet where someone that's got a net worth of billions realizes that, Bitcoin's a little transparent, so he wants to park his money into Monero, right? The offshore Swiss bank account equivalent. But I think that we will see this transition into currencies such as Monero, Bitcoin. We've talked about the central bank digital currencies. I think we're going to live in a world where there's a lot more currencies than we even have today. And the privacy is the important part with that, because, like, let's be honest, like, I mean, we've seen the world today. If you're ever someone that has had like a transaction declined, or God forbid, you're in a country where you're trying to get money to family because it's their livelihood and you can't do it, that's not a good feeling, right? So I think there's the most price appreciation for Monero too. That's the other investment perspective. So we're talking about Robinhood. Well, this isn't financial advice, but
yeah, I think we're just talking what makes sense, honestly, right now. We might have some deflation coming soon, and then after deflation goes hyperinflation. It goes from deflation and then boom, hyperinflation. It doesn't balance out. It just dips hard and then goes up. So you want to protect against that. And I think, crypto, Monero, Bitcoin, and gold, and
gold and
maybe,
silver.
yeah, gold
Gold and
and
silver.
yeah, gold and silver, and also, you know, maybe some currency, some Swiss francs. I keep saying Swiss francs to some people too, because you never know if you need some money, some cash you want to, have on hand. If you have a passport, maybe you have to flee the country because things are getting crazy, right? So Switzerland is a neutral country, so and their currency, even though it's not backed by gold as it used to be, but it is, historically has been one of the best currencies around.
Mm-hmm.
So something to have, and then if you want to, keep playing in the markets, let it crash, then maybe you want to, buy some stock and invest in some stock really, really cheap once we actually know the bottom. And I think we will, if you keep listening to the people in the know, and we follow them. So, and we're not saying that we know, but we talk, and you guys could do your own analysis and all of that. So, and buy stock, do whatever it is you have to do, save some money. You want to buy a house in the future, might be close to the time, maybe 2 years from now is when you want to purchase. There's a lot going on. So we just want to prepare for all of that. We also want to prepare for any crashes just because, out of survival.
Yeah, and learn how to get to use the stuff now. Have fun with it.
Yeah, because we will have a digital dollar. And the digital dollar isn't, you know, debits and credits. It's not the same thing. Different currency. You know, we spoke, you know, in our last episode about the digital dollar and how the government wants to there's a group of Democrats that are trying to pass a bill where they will introduce the digital dollar by creating two individual trillion-dollar platinum coins issued by the Treasury to fund the new digital currency, the digital dollar, and give it to the country, to all the individuals as a stimulus. And you will actually have a wallet. You will have a digital wallet that will be connected to Fed accounts, which is an account that's connected to the Federal Reserve. And that's where your money will be stored. So that's similar to what China's doing right now with their digital currency that they're introducing. So it goes back to a competition. You know, China's doing it. We're gonna do it. You know, might as well start learning it now. Might as well have different ones. And and keep your eye out. It's a lot going on right now. It's a lot, man. It's some. You know, you come. You know, me and you talk every day. You come with something one day, and I don't even know anything. I'm like, whoa, oh shit. And then I come with something. You're like, oh man, because there's just so much. So much going on. We don't know what's going on.
And that's why I feel like we do this. You know, you can follow us on, you know, go to the nonconformist.io. We have all our content there. You can subscribe to our free email list right at the cover of that. And then we also have a paid newsletter where we give some more detail on a lot of the stuff we talk about. But this is really it. And, you know, we're living through it. And again, it's history. So this is going to happen one way or another. So, you know, stay knowledgeable, stay informed, and really just enjoy the ride. And we'll be here with you the whole time. All right, Mike.
All right, guys.
That's going to be it, man. Until next time. Peace, y'all.
Peace, Lex.
Dude, I gotta let me see how to turn this off. Stop recording.